Hi, this is Mapman Productions here, and today we will be talking about the 50 states of America. Now I'm going to split this up into two videos. This is the first part, which will cover the first 25 states, and the last part will cover the last 25 states. We're going to go in a random order. It's not going to be alphabetical order, sorry guys. And I'm going to be using this puzzle, and I'm going to color in the states on this with this marker, and I'm going to color them in, and that way you'll know which states I've already talked about, so we won't have to like repeat states accidentally. And sorry if the shapes look a little sloppy. I mean, it's a kid's puzzle, and sorry if I'm like, since this puzzle is really old, I've like accidentally like marked up some stuff. We'll figure that out. But the first state is going to be Colorado. So, facts about Colorado is that it has mountains, and it's pretty big. It's like one of the biggest states. It's the Rocky Mountain state, so there's a lot of mountains over here, of course. And its capital is Denver, so that's pretty cool and all. It's sort of midway through the country in the region of this country called the Rocky Mountain region. So that's what we're gonna do first. I'm gonna make this different colors. Okay, next state is Oregon. You're lucky too. You're number 2, Oregon. Oregon touches the Pacific Ocean, which is really cool. It's really beautiful. The capital is Salem, but the largest city is actually Portland. And half of Oregon is green, lush rainforest, and not tropical rainforest, just rainforest. And the other half is a cold desert. This can also sometimes be considered a Rocky Mountain state, and it is in the west of the United States. It's in the west, and it's in the Pacific area. That's why I colored it a different color than Colorado. Next state is the great state of New York, the Empire State. Sorry if the color on this one is a little bit faded. It's just a little bit different than the other colors. But New York is a great state. It has New York City, which is the largest and most populous city in the United States. It touches the Atlantic Ocean through Long Island. It touches Lake Ontario in Canada too. It has half Niagara Falls. The largest city is, of course, New York City, but the capital is actually Albany, which is interesting because Albany only has like maybe like a 20th of the population of New York, maybe even smaller, maybe more like a 50th of the population of New York, but it's just really tiny. Next state is Indiana, and the Midwest states are going to be colored green just because. So Indiana touches Lake Michigan. It has the shortest coastline out of any state. It's only about 20 miles, well actually second shortest after New Hampshire, which barely even has a coastline on this map. But it's really short coastline. It's only about like 30, 50 miles long. It's like, they have some interesting towns on the North Shore. It's really close to Chicago. They also have like border with Michigan and border with Ohio and Kentucky. It hits the Ohio River, and they have the city of Indianapolis. They also have the Indy 500 Speedway, which is the largest motorized event, I'm pretty sure, in the world. It's maybe just in the United States, but it's definitely the largest in the United States. Next state, North Dakota. North Dakota, capital Bismarck, which is, I think, the second largest city after Fargo. Minnesotans get really mad about Fargo, we all know. And North Dakota has an interesting Native American American tribes. They also have some interesting like oil pipelines. They're one of the two Dakotas, and they are a Great Plains state. By the way, in the beginning of the video, I said I was going to make 2 separate videos. I actually think I'm just going to make one big video because it's easier that way. Next up is Alaska. This is also what I'm counting as a Pacific state. Alaska is the largest state in the United States by size, and it is one of the least populated states in the United States, and it has a very low population density. It also has very cool stuff, like a lot of national parks. It has the tallest mountain in North America, actually, Mount McKinley, which is pretty interesting. And it's a really cool state with big parks, big nice people. The capital is Juneau, but the largest city is Anchorage. Done with my drink there. Next state, Maine, capital Augusta. Maine has a big lobster culture. They have like one of the best lobsters in the world. Maine also touches a little bit of the Bay of Fundy, which has the largest tides in the world, but most of it is in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. They also touch Canada, and some Canadians that I talk to sometimes say that Maine should actually be a part of Canada, which is sort of funny. But it's a part of the United States, so sorry, Canadians. Next up here, next state that we have is Wyoming, the least populated state in the United States. That is literally all that I know about it. Well, I know a few more things. Like, they have some cool stuff. There are plains. They're a Rocky Mountain Plains state. They have Yellowstone National Park, one of the most visited national parks in the world and the biggest in the United States. They have Native American tribes like the Sioux, the Shoshone, especially the Shoshone. They're the big Native American tribe out there. And really cool people, really nice culture, all that good stuff. Next state, Wisconsin. Wisconsin is like the cheese and dairy state. Its capital is Madison. Oh, I forgot to mention, the capital of Wyoming is Cheyenne. Sorry that I didn't mention that before. It has the University of Wisconsin. Lake Superior has a small coast of Lake Superior near the city of Duluth in Minnesota. And it also touches the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and Lake Michigan. And Wisconsin has very beautiful lakes, and it has 15,000 lakes, and it, like Minnesota, its neighbor, is known for its really beautiful lakes. So this is like the lake and cheese state. But even though the capital is Madison, the largest city is actually Milwaukee on the Lake Michigan coast. Next state is the first southern state that we have, which is going to be Mississippi, capital Jackson, which is also the largest city. Mississippi has a small coast on the Gulf of Mexico, which is where the city Gulfport is. And it actually, fun fact, is changing its flag from the Confederate battle flag to something a little bit nicer because a lot of black people live in the state, which is just all nice and great. Mississippi has like a lot of civil rights stuff, and that's pretty nice. But they do also have a very high murder rate, which sort of sucks, but they're on the way to fixing it. Next state is gonna be a Mid-Atlantic state, first Mid-Atlantic state, Virginia. Virginia is a very important state. It's one of the most populated states. The capital is Richmond, but the largest city is actually Virginia Beach, which is sort of weird because Virginia Beach is like a very little known city. Virginia has a small coast on the Chesapeake Bay, and which is part of the Greater Atlantic Ocean. It has the Appalachian Mountains. It's really cool. It had the capital of the Confederacy, which was actually Richmond, and it has the lower half of what used to be D.C., but later got converted into Arlington County, which is a pretty cool fact. Next state, West Virginia. I've heard some people say this is like a mountain state, not a mid-Atlantic state, but I say it's a mid-Atlantic state because that's what I know it as. West Virginia is the second of the Virginias, and it is the poorest state, I think. Well, it's not the poorest state, but it's very known for being a very poor state, and it is a mountain state. It's like the main thing over here is mountains. Mountains are really big and important here. So, mountains... Can you get Marley out of the space? Mountains are like a really big thing over here. So that's one thing about West Virginia as opposed to Virginia. Next state is... Wait, can you get the dog out, please? Next state is Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a big plain state located in the middle of the United States. Sorry, I changed my mind again. I think I'm going to split into two parts because this video is getting long. So, Oklahoma is a plain state. It is right above Texas. It's like sometimes Texas is a little brother if we're like family. That's funny. So it's like one of the most open states, and it has some trees and forests in the east. Some people say this is southern state, but I think of it as a plain state. And Oklahoma is really cool. They have Native American tribes. Fun fact, it was the only state in the Union where all of the counties voted Republican in the 2016 election. So, Oklahoma is a pretty good state, in my opinion. But next state is Minnesota. Minnesota is one of my favorite states, actually. And it touches Canada. Its capital is St. Paul, but the largest city is I almost said Indianapolis, Minneapolis. And they have some really cool places like Duluth, Minnesota, which is on Minnesota's small Lake Superior coastline. I also forgot to mention Oklahoma City is the capital of Oklahoma, and Tulsa is the largest city in Oklahoma. I've been forgetting to mention the capital. Like Charleston is the capital of West Virginia. It's also the largest city. But back to Minnesota. Minnesota has very beautiful forests. Minnesota has very beautiful wildlife and nature. They have all these cool places. This actually might be my favorite state, Minnesota. Minnesota might actually be my favorite state. Next state, Georgia. Georgia is a really cool state in the deep south. It touches the Atlantic Ocean. Its capital is Atlanta, which is the largest city in Georgia as well, and is our second southern state. So Georgia is it's like a very new starting state. There's a lot of film places that are popping up in this place. It's sort of becoming the Hollywood of the East and sort of replacing New York as the Hollywood of the East. But New York and Georgia. New York has some competition because of Georgia now. Next state is gonna be Vermont. Vermont touches Canada. They have a lot of French names in Vermont. I've noticed they have a lot of French culture. but they sort of have like a lot of French culture, like I just said. The capital is Montpelier, but the largest city is Burlington, Vermont, which is located on Lake Champlain, one of the coolest lakes in North America, because it completely freezes over in the winter, which is very neat and very nice as well. Next state, sorry guys for that. Next state, Maryland. Maryland is I don't know, lobster state. It's not a lobster state, it's like the fish state. Like there's like a lot of fish here and like people fish a lot. And it has Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, which is not in Maryland, but it's its own separate district away from Maryland. But some people will say, some ignorant people will try and say that Washington, D.C. is actually a part of Maryland. The capital is Annapolis, which is not the largest city. The largest city is Baltimore, which is a very known city. And funny enough, Baltimore, the entire city of Baltimore, has more people than the entire state of Wyoming, which is pretty impressive. There's sort of two parts to Maryland. There's the eastern half, which is on the other side of the Chesapeake Bay, away from Maryland. And then there's the western half, where most of the people live, and that is on the mainland. Well, the Chesapeake Bay part is on the mainland too, which is it's separated from the rest by a little river. So that is cool, Maryland. Maryland's really cool. Next state, California, the big guy. California, sorry, this magenta color here is sort of drying out. I might have to replace it with a different color. But California is like the central nucleus of it all. It has the most people of any state. It has more people than Canada, 39 million. And California is sort of strange because it's broken up into like different areas. Like there's like Northern California, which is like funny because people will say that Sacramento is Northern California, but I always thought of that as like Middle California, and then LA is like Southern California. What I think of when I see Northern California is what people call extreme North California, which is where no one lives, and there's a slight independence movement called Jefferson. But they have so much cool stuff like IT in San Francisco, Hollywood Entertainment in LA, the Golden Gate Bridge, the Hollywood sign. Sacramento is the capital, though. The largest city is LA, of course, which is the second largest city in the United States. And the second largest city is San Diego, followed by San Jose, and then San Francisco. I was surprised that San Francisco was actually that low on the list. But anyways, I've talked about California for way too long, so let's move on to the next state, which is Utah. Utah is one of the westernmost Rocky Mountain states, and it is half Rocky Mountain action and half desert state. So it's like a border state between those two halves. So Salt Lake City is the capital, and it's also the largest city. And it is a pretty cool state. They have a lot of Mormon people out here, and they have like a lot of church attendance. And they are in the middle of the desert. These people sort of like figured out how to survive in the desert. They're not the hottest state though, on average. That goal goes to Arizona, which we will get into in a little bit. Next state, South Carolina. South Carolina touches the Atlantic Ocean. It is a very hot state, like Georgia and the other southern states as well. And it is and it touches the Atlantic Ocean, like I already said. The capital is Columbia, and the largest city is Charleston, South Carolina, which is actually one of the largest cities in the United States. It's one of the largest cities, not the largest city, just one of the largest cities. It's not in the top 10 or the top 20, I don't think, but it's pretty large. You get the point. South Carolina has the Gullah community, which is a really cool community of like these islanders who decided to build things and now they're like really popular. So South Carolina is like really cool. Okay, and this is actually going to be, I've decided, the last state in this video. Illinois. Illinois has Chicago, it's the largest city. It touches Lake Michigan, but the capital is Springfield, which is closer to the center-western part of the state. Illinois is a really cool state. It's like one of the most populated states. It has the third largest city in America, which is Chicago, and it is a pretty well-known state. Like, I think everyone knows this place for Chicago. It has some like cool places in the state, like has a lot of comedy. Like, if New York is like the business capital and LA is like the entertainment capital, then Chicago is like where they meet in the middle, and Chicago's like the comedy capital. But it's pretty cool. So this is where I'm gonna end the video. Part 2 will be out very shortly, maybe even later today. I hope you enjoyed. This is Matt Man signing off.